Hey YNR fans! Waving hand, welcome to YNR Trends, your go-to spot for the juiciest Young and the Restless updates, shocking spoilers, and all the drama you can't stop talking about. From surprise returns to scandalous twists, we break it all down for you, every day. So grab your coffee, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive right into Genoa City's hottest gossip. Billy Abbott makes a mysterious news, and Claire Newman will show Nate Hastings the real Audra Charles, according to the Young and the Restless preview video for the week of August 18th to 22nd. Chelsea Lawson will first learn that Sally Spectra is now officially in charge of Billy's new business, and she will question where Billy will end up as a result. Billy will remain evasive for the time being after Chelsea questions him and Sally in the Jazz Lounge. In YNR's weekly preview video, Billy states, "I will tell you very soon about some exciting news I have of my own." Daniel Romalotti Jr. will then start pressuring Holden Novak for information, which will make him suspicious. Holden will become upset as a result and demand to know if Daniel is investigating him. Holden will continue to be tense as he questions whether Kane Ashby set him up for this, even though Daniel would deny it. Claire will quickly approach Nate for an important chat as he will return from Damian Kane's memorial service in Chicago. When Nate was ready to bury his brother, Claire didn't want to add to the problems, but she also didn't want to continue to ignore the Audra reality. Nate will wonder what this is about as Claire approaches him at society and says she needs to talk to him right away. It's Audra. In YNR's weekly preview video, Claire says, "There's something you need to know about the kind of person she really is." Naturally, there's a chance that Claire's confession will ultimately be delayed a little bit. Audra can try to avoid the drama that is about to break out by finding a method to postpone the inevitable. But it's also feasible that Claire may reveal Audra's shady practices and blurt everything out. The time may have come for Nate to learn about Audra's breakup scheme for Victor Newman. Claire will also want Nate to be aware that Audra recently kissed Kyle Abbott at the restaurant. Nate will undoubtedly be incensed because Audra has been engaging in a number of scandalous and deceptive actions behind his back. Keep watching the CBS soap opera because spoilers for the Young and the Restless indicate that Audra will need to explain herself. C. Following the shocking handling of a central character who was probably handled like a day player even before his death, Young and Restless viewers are furious, and with good reason. Remember to cast your vote at the conclusion as we go into this insult. Chance, the final surviving member of the Chancellors, one of the original families of Young and Restless, was killed off after Kane Ashby's train/maze mishap in Nice, France, after being demoted to the role of town cop. Given that Connor Floyd was departing YNR to play a part on Days of Our Lives, we could see why it was necessary to write him out. However, we fervently hoped that the investigator would simply be written out, opening the possibility of Floyd's future return or a recast. He died on screen instead. Unfortunately, there has never been a satisfactory explanation for Chance's presence in the Nice chateau. We don't even know why Chance died because there was only a passing mention that Kane believed someone was trying to kill him. Kane Chance YNR. However, things worsen. The absence of Jill from the Adventures of Ashby plot is one of the main grievances. Indeed, Chance's death would have been much more impactful if his cherished grandmother had been present, but she wasn't. She wasn't even permitted to be upset with Kane for inviting Chance to the event that would ultimately lead to his death. Billy Jill YNR. In addition to dealing with the fallout, the authors were able to make a final jab at Chance and the Chancellor family. We were surprised to see that Chance's burial had already occurred off-screen in Los Angeles, not Genoa City, when Christine and Danny appeared on a Young and Restless episode this week. Really? Fans being able to grieve with Nina and Jill, or at least his ex-partners, would have been the only potential benefit of this situation. Summer is off-screen, and Sharon will behave as if she hardly knew him, even if we haven't seen Abby or Dom. People, those feels are the entire reason we're here. Fans weren't afraid to voice their opinions. That's not all, though. As a last insult, we were forced to listen to characters bemoan the loss of Nina's only son, even though we all know she had two. Ronan Malloy, Nina's other kid and Chance's sibling, was indeed removed from the program by the writers. Whether intentional or not, it clarified what was meant by adding insult to injury. The top-floor glass walls of Newman Media let in late afternoon sunlight, which spilled over the polished conference table and created a warm yet misleading stage for the events that were about to take place. Claire had been silent the entire morning, her eyes shaded by the sobering truth she had been bearing for weeks rather than by sleep deprivation. She had seen Audra Charles deftly navigate her way into everyone's favor, especially Nate's, while planting doubtful seeds and whispering just enough poison into the appropriate ears to help her own goals thrive. To everyone else, Audra was simply acting boldly, ambitiously, and strategically. Claire, however, was wiser. Every time a possible impediment came her way, she caught a glimpse of that calculating glint in her eyes, heard the late-night phone conversations when Audra thought no one was home, and saw the texts. For Audra, Nate was more than simply a target, he was a piece. Even though her relationship with Nate was difficult, Claire couldn't watch him be used. His brow was wrinkled as she discovered him leaning against the edge of his desk and browsing through something on his phone. With the tiniest hint of surprise in his eyes, he looked up as she entered. With a tiny smile pulling at his lips, he continued, "Claire, I didn't expect to see you here today." She didn't smile back. She added, "We need to talk," in a tone that was steadier and lower than how she felt on the inside. When Nate saw the gravity in her eyes, his smile vanished. She remained standing when he pointed to the leather chair across from him. "I can't tell you this when I'm sitting down." He put his phone down and stood up straight, his arms folded across his chest. "You must hear it exactly as it is, without me softening the edges." "All right. Go ahead." Claire inhaled, her thoughts racing about how much to divulge and how much would come across as jealousy rather than the truth. She started by saying, "Audra isn't who you think she is. I'm not referring to rivalry or ambition. She aligns herself with people who have their own agendas, which is one of her hidden working angles. She is setting you up to be blamed should things go wrong." Nate's jaw tensed, but he remained silent. Claire took a step forward, her voice trailing off. "She has been having private meetings with Tucker McCall. She doesn't go to the Grand Phoenix for cocktails, but I have witnessed her sneak in late at night. She discusses leverage, purchases, and who can be pushed out without appearing to be attempting to seize power. And the secret to her whole scheme is you, Nate." Nate exhaled slowly, his eyes narrowing just enough for her to tell he was processing but not convinced. "She'll flatter you, make you believe you're on the same side, and when it's time, she'll pull the rug out from under you. And you want me to accept this without evidence?" Claire felt a knot in her stomach. She had evidence, but displaying it would require disclosing how she obtained it, which could raise issues she wasn't prepared to address. She said, "I'm not asking you to blindly trust me. Please keep a close eye on her so you can spot the trends I've already noticed. Before you know it, you'll see that I'm correct." Before Nate could reply, Billy Abbott walked into his office, his well-worn outfit of understated provocation and easygoing charm still hanging about him. Billy added, "Sorry to interrupt," but he didn't seem remorseful. Claire took a cautious step back and said, "But I think you'll both want to hear something." On his best days, Billy was erratic, but she could tell by the sparkle in his eyes that he was about to stir up something more significant than either of them had anticipated. Nate raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" With his hands in his pockets, Billy leaned against the door and shut it behind him. "Let's just say that things are going to change. Large ones." As her pulse pounded, Claire folded her arms. "And the kind of changes that make people choose sides before they even know they've picked one." "What are you discussing?" Billy smiled slowly and purposefully. "I'll be announcing something shortly. For now, it's cryptic, but when it drops, the whole environment will change. People who believed they were untouchable will have their alliances tested, secrets will be revealed, and He paused, allowing the suspense to build. Well, they will discover otherwise. Nate scowled. Billy's eyes shifted to Claire and then back to Nate. If you have something to say, Billy, just say it. Let's just say that I've been watching some folks, and I'm not the only one that finds manipulation annoying. Those who believe they can outperform everyone else will have to face the consequences. And when it strikes, don't be shocked if you find yourself standing against someone you believed you could trust and next to someone you didn't anticipate. Claire's stomach fell. Billy made no mention of names, but she could hear the insinuation clearly. Was he alerting them? Was he preparing them for something, perhaps? She looked at Nate, but it was impossible to interpret his face because he was obviously considering other options. Billy's voice became softer as he pushed off the door and approached them. Remain vigilant. You too. The current course of action is one of survival rather than business. He left after saying, and some people are a lot more desperate than they look. The sound of the door closing left an eerie silence in its wake. It was Nate who spoke first. Do you believe he is referring to Audra? Claire paused. I believe he is more knowledgeable than he is admitting. Nate sat back down and rubbed his hand over his jaw. And if Billy Abbott is giving away clues rather than blowing it wide open, it means he's either using it to his advantage, or he's worried about how messy it's going to get. Claire, you just revealed a lot to me. I'm in the midst of a storm that I didn't even anticipate if you're correct. He trailed off, leaving the implied result hanging in the air, if you're wrong. I'm not mistaken, she muttered. And your chances of escaping it without losing everything are better the sooner you believe me. The days that followed were like a rope being gradually pulled tighter around their throats. Instead of his customary warmth, Nate responded to Audra's charm with measured civility, watching her with a careful detachment. Claire avoided both of them, but her thoughts were constantly racing, reliving every exchange, every sidelong glance, and every instance that might represent the first rift in Audra's meticulously manicured facade. Billy, on the other hand, moved through the building so effortlessly that it was hard to tell if he was planning something or just taking pleasure in the mayhem he had created. Although the mysterious announcement had not yet been made, rumors began to circulate around the offices, giving slight indications that something was being planned at the top. Claire pretended to be writing a report one evening, long after the majority of the building had been cleared out. She looked up to find Audra sneaking into Nate's office after hearing heels click in the corridor. Claire's heartbeat accelerated. Raising herself, she walked quietly toward the door, leaning just enough to listen without being noticed. Audra spoke in a low, almost enticing tone. You have been aloof lately. I hope nothing you've heard is to blame for that. Nate's response was measured. People love to twist things, especially when they see two people working well together. I've simply been occupied. However, perhaps you could clarify for me why Billy Abbott would be implying a significant upheaval. And why does he seem to be pointing it at our loved ones? After the shortest silence, Audra let out a small laugh. Billy is a drama queen. To see who leaps first, he's most likely stoking the pot. Claire could almost hear the smile in her voice, but beneath it was something sharper. Don't tell me you're letting him get in your head. Claire made up her mind and took a step back before being discovered. She had to reveal everything she knew before it was too late. She could no longer just hint. And perhaps it would ultimately shatter the facade if Billy's cryptic announcement came at the same moment. A legacy character leaving a long-running soap opera, such as The Young and the Restless, is usually a big deal, not only for the story but also for the devoted audience that has spent years, even decades, watching their stories. When done incorrectly, such an exit can come across as a betrayal and a rejection of the viewer's emotional bond with these characters. Fans of The Young and the Restless have recently criticized the show for what they see as a disrespectful farewell to a popular legacy character who comes from a family that has been a mainstay of the program for many generations. It has been said that the way this character was written out was a last insult, a conscious attempt to minimize their significance, and a failure to recognize their contributions to the history of the program. Many fans have questioned the author's comprehension of what makes these characters and their families so essential to the success of the program as a result of this decision. Continuity and legacy are essential to soap operas. The lives of characters are woven into the fabric of the fictitious universe they live in, and they are more than just people, they are members of dynasties. The Young and the Restless has long revolved around families like the Winters, Abbotts, and Newmans, whose intergenerational tragedies serve as the show's emotional center. It feels like an erasure of history and a disrespect for the tales that have captivated audiences for so long when a character from one of these families is mistreated or written off without due recognition. Because it involves a character who has been a constant presence, a link connecting past and present tales, even though they may not have been in the spotlight, the recent departure in question has particularly touched a sensitive nerve. Fans believe that the show's writers are out of touch with what the audience values because of their sudden and disappointing departure. The fact that the authors had numerous chances to give this character a heartfelt farewell but instead choose to ignore them, making their departure an afterthought, is among the most annoying parts of this scenario. Even though soap operas are episodic and continuous by nature, character exits shouldn't be dismissed as unimportant. Especially for characters who have been on the show for years, fans expect, and deserve, a sense of finality. Rather, this character received a hasty, casual farewell that lacked any emotional depth. The character's departure is important, but so is the manner in which they depart. An effective exit can pay tribute to a character's past, provide devoted viewers an emotional reward, and even pave the way for more stories. But in this case, supporters received a dismissal that came off as more of an insult than a praise. Fans' outrage is not limited to this particular character's treatment, it also represents a larger worry about the show's handling of heritage characters and families. The Young and the Restless has always been strong at long-term narrative, but there is a growing sense that it is putting more emphasis on shock value and short-term drama. The distinctive quality of soap operas is their capacity to gradually forge strong emotional bonds. Neglecting these bonds threatens the genre's very existence. Because they think these people's stories are important and their journeys are worthwhile, fans invest in them. The audience and the creators lose trust when a show conveys, through sloppy writing or rude exits, that these people are disposable. This particular leaving is particularly sad since it affects a family that has been central to the show for many years. For instance, the Abbotts have been a mainstay of The Young and the Restless since its inception, and some of the most memorable events on the program come from their rivalries, loves, and personal troubles. It feels like a violation of that tradition to witness a member of this family being treated as an afterthought. It's about more than just one character, it's about what that figure stands for, the background, the significance, and the consistency that entices people to return. A show conveys a message that it no longer appreciates the very things that initially made it successful when it dismisses that with such casualness. The fact that soap operas have a long tradition of paying tribute to their legacy characters even after they leave the canvas adds to the annoyance. There are innumerable ways to write a character that seem respectful to the character and the viewer, whether it's through dramatic deaths, heartfelt farewells, or open-ended goodbyes that provide room for a return. Fans are responding not only to the character's departure but also to the show's decision to deal with it. The character's influence on the lives of those around them was not acknowledged, nor was there a heartfelt farewell with loved ones or a great, emotional ending sequence. Rather, their departure was viewed as a minor detail that should be avoided at all costs. That's a difficult pill to swallow for a fan audience that has invested in these characters for years, even generations. What this signifies for the show's future is another question. What does it say about the show's dedication to its own past if heritage characters and families are no longer given the consideration and respect they merit? The foundation of soap operas is continuity, or the belief that the past influences the present and the future. A show runs the risk of losing what makes it unique among television when it begins to ignore that. Fans watch for the history, the enduring relationships, and the feeling that these characters and their tales are important in addition to the current action. The show as a whole suffers when that sense is undermined, not just the character. Fans have responded in a passionate and often hostile manner. Longtime viewers have expressed their displeasure and frustration on social media, which has resulted in a deluge of criticism. A big message for a show that depends on devoted, consistent viewers is that some have even threatened to stop watching. Fans of soap operas frequently express their disapproval of plots, but the ferocity of the response here shows how strongly this has struck a chord. Feeling that the show no longer appreciates the characteristics that originally made it unique is more important than simply not enjoying a certain narrative twist. That's a risky situation for a genre that relies on emotional connection. Of course, the producers and authors of the show might have a different perspective. They might have handled the leaving creatively, or they might have made the choice based on behind-the-scenes considerations like actor availability or contract disputes. However, none of it lessens the impact of what was broadcast from the viewpoint of the spectator. For fans, what they see on screen is what counts, and in this instance, it seemed like a punch to the face. The audience's emotional requirements were not met by the execution, even if there were pragmatic factors involved. That is a mistake that could have long-term effects in a medium as fan-driven as soap operas. Respect for the past, respect for the characters, and respect for the fans is the bigger problem here. Few other television programs depend as heavily on devoted viewers as soap operas do, making them a distinct genre. Fans don't merely observe, they experience these characters' weddings, funerals, betrayals, and reunions year after year. Such an investment should not be taken for granted, but rather honored. A show conveys a lack of appreciation for that investment when it regards its iconic characters as expendable. And it's quite difficult to regain trust after it's been lost. Ultimately, there are other storylines involved in the disappointment surrounding this character's departure. It is about the seeming disrespect for the show's emotional core and history. For devoted viewers, it serves as a sobering warning that their favorite program might not be what they remember. Fans of the young and the restless will not soon forget this affront, but it is unclear if they will be able to restore that confidence. Additionally, the show must begin treating its heritage characters, and the families to whom they belong, with the respect and care they merit if it wants to maintain its viewership.